Sup Frosties? So I just got back from Pax Unplugged, and boy was there a lot to talk about. Just in general, the big announcement, and people, of course, all the speculation that followed, not just from the announcement, but from some things that were said during the presentation. So we're going to do just a little quick dive into all that now. Thanks to all my patrons. Thank you for making this channel happen. Couldn't do it without you. So obviously the big thing is Gloomhaven RPG. Instead of adapting it to a previous system, we are getting Gloomhaven in its own system, and the combat looks very familiar. As they step through things, you clearly saw familiar cards, people playing familiar classes, and so on and so forth. It does have the cool benefit of having a mix where you can have a unique background and heritage and what mercenary you are, and you kind of combine cards to build a configured character that has proficiency in various things. So some character may initially sound weak, like Quattrolls, but basically based off your other decisions, maybe you are actually good at some of these more strong checks and be a very powerful character. Whereas we saw some like influence or finesse and some of these social situations that people were able to use. And not only that, but some of the cards have been modified, and that's something I want to talk about, is some parts of the system. But before I get into that, just the idea of being able to host a campaign in Gloomhaven and say, here's the world of Caskia, and I'm running it, and I'm doing these adventures in it. That opens up a lot because you can just use the miniatures and standees that come with it. And a lot of people are definitely going like, well, like, you know, I want to build a cool dungeon, but how do you? You just use what comes in like Gloomhaven and Frosthaven, and you can build your own dungeons and have wonderful layouts, and it actually becomes really cool that way. Of course, you need a dedicated Gloom Master in this case. As a forever DM, it sounds like that's going to be my job. I personally am kind of excited for this because I know, and this might be heresy, I'm a huge fan of 4th edition D&D because as a very good dungeon master, I'm going to hype myself up here, I didn't really actually have a problem with some of the supposed limited storytelling of 4th edition. I was able to tell all my stories in a pretty regular manner, but the strategic combat was so fun. We were able to get through it quickly, and not only that, but people felt like all their choices and powers had impact rather than the fighter who was just playing, let's fight again, let's attack again, let's attack, and it was, let's be real, some of the other editions of Dungeons & Dragons handle martial classes incredibly poorly, and 4th edition really brought a spark to that. But with Gloomhaven having, you know, you pick any mercenary and then you get cards and you pick what heritage you're from. You could be like an Orchid. I personally love this idea. I want to make a Harrower Cragheart where it's a bunch of these dung beetles have come together and made this massive like dung ball like dung beetles do, but they've created, the whole swarm of them has created this, and now they're going to throw that as their like massive boulder, which sounds you know, crappy literally, but also it just sounds super fun. Of course I'm going to, you know, DM, so it's not going to be me playing a character, but one day someone will DM for me. But that's neither here nor there. Something people noticed was the cards, and this is something I want to go over. As you can see in this Rumbling Advance card, you can see there's now a 3rd section added right at the top, which allows for more in-character interactions. We also heard during play some people referencing specific cards and being able to use certain things, like I think there was like Nimble Hands were able to get like +2 to a finesse. So you can play cards for other effects other than just like, hey, this is move 2, attack 3, or something like, you know, as traditionally on any of the cards. And you can see Rumbling Advance now gives you a potential for a large boost, but also with a drawback, which is cool. So now you have all these fluff on the cards as well. As it should be noted though, it looks like all the cards are in the new Frosthaven format, which isn't surprising. The plan was to move to this format going forward, so it looks like they're doing a pass on all the cards just to update them to this new format. Additionally, as was pointed out on Reddit, BoardGameGeek, and so on and so forth, it does look like there is an initiative change here, and it was pointed out during the backstab. He said attack 2 and not attack 3, and the base backstab is typically attack 3. So perhaps they did do some balance things for the RPG, and that's not surprising. And there's a few offenders, which I don't think should surprise anyone, that might not be a good choice for how to transition these classes to, you know, the RPG. Especially, you know, one class in particular, just some of its mechanics are just too powerful, and other people feel left out. And there's just too much going on in those. So perhaps they are going to be rebalancing some of the cards, and it's pretty obvious that it's probably required for an RPG, not just to copy paste all them. And even then, if it was just, hey, take your cards and play them, they wouldn't have gone in for such a large project to undergo that. So of course there's going to be some changes. And of course, to further the rumor mill, saw other people saying, what if they rebalanced all of Gloomhaven? And I can assure you, literally rebalancing everything for Gloomhaven would be such a gigantic undertaking that it would be a massive project. It would be basically like making it over again. So the chances of that. Luckily though, we do have these wonderful cards for the RPG, and we'll get more information about them in April. Of course, Alexander, being as snarky as he is, had to take a section out to ask Isaac, hey, in the voice of Zane, asking, I've been to Gloomhaven, I even went up to Frosthaven for a bit, and I visited these 2 locations. If I were to visit a 3rd location, where should I go? Now, for people that weren't able to read between the lines, Alexander was trying to prod Isaac on stream to reveal, where are we going after Frosthaven? I know a lot of people are like, please, I just want my copy of Frosthaven now. I don't want to talk about whatever 3 Haven is. But, you know, it's always fun to think about what comes next. And of course, we've got what I'm just temporarily calling East Haven. So we're talking about the lands to the east. I personally am a huge fan of the Orchid lore, and the Eastern continent is something that hasn't actually been touched on very much in lore at all. We've had some of the stories, like when we had the community campaigns, touch on White Oak, the capital, and that's cool. And we've, of course, gone to the north in Frosthaven, but we haven't visited so many other places. Like, you've got the Red Desert, and of course, the serene jungles across the sea. So what lies beyond there? Was Isaac really giving us a spoiler? Or was this all just a ruse? We may never know. Hopefully this isn't a case of George R.R. Martin where we can finally get our big project and then ignore it forever, although I guess in this case Frosthaven is close to Winds of Winter, which we will probably never get, unfortunately. I'm kidding, of course he's going to release it before he dies. Please finish it, George. But I do want to hear your speculation on East Haven and what other things that could be there. And wouldn't it be cool if we had more of an emphasis on like orchids rather than the human cities? So of course next we have the miniatures, the big campaign. We already knew this was coming, and it's coming in April 2023. But of course this now lends itself to the tabletop RPG. So now we have miniatures, and it's going to be a big project. And I know Isaac said, hey, you don't have to buy it, it's going to be expensive. The answer is you probably should, because it really does amp up your game. And then there's something I love. I personally love enhanced Gloomhaven. I love seeing better doors. I use some 3D printed doors and terrain. I'm still working on my own miniatures and painting all those, but you know what? At least I've got my miniatures painted, right? And I'm super excited. So I did get my hands on a bunch of the miniatures for the upcoming campaign. I'm going to paint them and introduce a few of them to my Frosthaven campaign, see how the pictures look as soon as I get all that done. I've got a very busy December, so it might take me just a little bit to do all that, but ultimately I'm really excited for the miniatures and being able to actually play with a fully minute. Could you imagine just actually playing Frosthaven, Gloomhaven, or something, and having all the miniatures to go with it rather than standees? Now, for me personally, I think that's super fun, and I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work with summons, but between the RPG and being able to write one's own story within it and just enjoy that world without the restrictions of you must follow the campaign and do these scenarios. And of course, as a DM, something I love writing dungeons and writing fun content. So if that, without having that opportunity to say, hey everyone, I'm going to take you through something of my own design, would actually be really fun. And I hope my group is very ready for it, because I totally want to I want them to enjoy it, and I totally won't kill them again. I promise. They believe that, right? Of course, some people also had a little bit to say over, hey, they had copies of Frosthaven. Why don't the backers have it yet? And they're selling it. Keep in mind, this is actually a tiny amount of Frosthaven boxes, literally just pallets, not actually a warehouse, just 2 pallets of Frosthaven to sell to people there. And this is the thing, cons like these for large companies like this, and just in general, cost money. This is just enough to help keep the lights on and help pay for people's hotel and stuff. This this is not a money move, and these were already earmarked. None of these were like taken away from backers. So I know some people are like, they're already selling it. They're not. They're just doing a special at a con. It's still going to retail, I think it was March or April 2023. So if you're a backer, you're going to be getting it much sooner than like 4 months from now. So luckily we don't have that wait, but don't worry about that. That's such a tiny amount of people that got Frosthaven and were able to purchase it without backing it. It just helps the company to have copies there for sale. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. And as a matter of fact, it's over now. So no one else can get it until the backers get all of it. And that's just a fact. Also, it was super fun to hang out with the Cephalofair team again. I'm pretty much in constant contact with them, but rarely do I get to see them in person as often. And it's been a while since Gen Con, and this is ultimately one of my favorite festivals, actually. I really enjoyed Philadelphia. It actually was during the Christmas stuff, so I had a little bit of a walkthrough of the Christmas fair that they had set up at the Philadelphia City Hall. And that was really enjoyable just to look around and watch people ice skating and stuff, which is very Frosthaven-y. Of course, I don't think about Frosthaven all the time, just most of the time. They believe that. Really, it was just fun to hang out with them, do karaoke, go to an axe throwing bar, perhaps have a little bit too many drinks at the axe throwing bar, have Price order you an Uber because you had too many drinks at the axe throwing bar, and so on and so forth. Got to meet wonderful people like Mandatory Quest. Tom is such a great dude, and it was just really nice to talk with him. He's amazing. If you aren't familiar with him, he's Mandatory Quest. He has a Twitch channel and a YouTube channel. Additionally, I stopped by at X Games booth to show off Rove, which is making huge progress. They actually didn't have a giant booth at Origins the first time I saw it, and now it's greatly expanded. I'm really enthused about hearing more about this project. As a matter of fact, he said he's going to be getting me one of the larger copies, not the Origins copy, but the copy that they have there, and it's going to have miniatures, and I'm very excited to show off. First off, I was a big fan of the Starling and the Typher, and they just seem like such cute little options, and I really want to play Starling again. So if that's something I can show off, I will gladly do that. It's really fun. So thank you, Price, Isaac, Chris, thank you, everyone. All of you did an amazing job at PAX, and I love all of you. And I hope all of you enjoyed at least my rundown of some of the things that we learned at PAX. I do think that, of course, there's a lot of information we can extrapolate from the what we've seen, and we can do a lot of guesses at that point. And ultimately, at this point, the only thing we will be doing is just guessing. We don't have any more information, but when it does go to Backer Kit in April of 2023, we'll have much more information. We'll be able to see more of the RPG, and we'll definitely be able to see more of the miniatures they're going to be showing off. So this was the last con of the year, and con season will start again next year. I'm not sure if we're going to be going to PAX East, but I'm at least going to try to go to Origins and Gen Con, and I probably won't be able to go to PAX Unplugged next year due to the timing. It'll probably be during my recovery. I just want to thank all of you for watching, and of course, thank you to all of my patrons. You're all wonderful people. If you really like talking about Gloomhaven obsessively like I do, consider joining our Discord. I have a wonderful community of people who are clearly not spending the whole time shit posting and actually talking about normal stuff and totally not shit posting 24/7. And we have that link in the description below if you're interested. If you do want to support us, consider joining Patreon. It does really help. And with that in mind, thank you to all our patrons, and thank all of you for watching.